Even if you are a stable, well-adjusted person with a secure attachment style, a relationship with someone with untreated borderline personality disorder who is unwilling to meaningfully acknowledge her issues will likely cause you to unravel psychologically fairly quickly. So please don't delude yourself into thinking that if you support her perfectly, do everything right, give everything up, navigate through all the drama and chaos, and try to be her savior, that you will be rewarded in the end. I'm Lise, and today I'm going to give you 5 of the top things I think you need to know if you have a partner with borderline personality disorder. At the end of this video, I will also explain why BPD is often considered the golden child of the cluster B personality disorders. In this video, I will focus on romantic relationships with a female with BPD, but this information also applies to males. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to my channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything. First, I am in no way suggesting that anyone should stay in an abusive or toxic relationship. If your partner has BPD and is not receiving treatment for whatever reason, it will be next to impossible to sustain a relationship with her long term. Keeping in mind, of course, that BPD is on a spectrum ranging from mild to severe, and that there may also be co-occurring disorders. Okay, so here are 5 things that you need to be highly aware of if you have a partner with BPD. There are more things, which is why I will make a part 2 to this video. So number 1, although the exact pathology of BPD is unknown, it is generally accepted that BPD is a neurodevelopmental disorder, which comprises of central nervous system dysfunction that's influenced by genetics, as well as environmental factors and adverse early life experiences. BPD causes the sufferer to misperceive, misinterpret, and it's also characterized by misbehavior. Although there are behavioral components, the problem is neurological. So understanding that their operating system is not the same as yours is critical. And if you look at them as neurotypical or as having a normal functioning nervous system, you'll be forever banging your head against a brick wall trying to figure out why they do this, that, and the other, and you'll end up trapped in a perpetual maze of frustration and confusion, trying harder and harder to solve a puzzle with the wrong pieces, which is why it's so important to view the person through the lens of BPD. Not to say that this is all of who they are, but it does affect every single aspect of how they interpret reality and interact with others. Number 2, once the borderline's attachment system is activated, their symptoms amplify and intensify drastically, at least towards the person they are attached to. The person with BPD typically develops a favorite person. Most often this is a romantic partner, but it can be someone else. And if you want to learn more about a favorite person and what that's like for someone with BPD, click on the link above. So when this attachment forms, the person with borderline personality disorder creates this ideal image of you in their mind as a perfect partner and parent, and they become fixated, obsessed, and very, very dependent on you.
Real love is total. It's like life or death. Like, you know you're gonna die when you're apart because the need is so pure.
And at first this might feel great because they idealize you and treat you like a god, a king, a savior. But they start to get more and more fearful and insecure as time goes on. And no matter how safe, secure, loving, trusting you are, even if you're madly in love with them, at some point she will be clutched by fear of engulfment and start pulling away, or she will be overtaken by frantic fears of abandonment and become convinced that you don't care, you don't love her, you're cheating or whatever.
You f***ed her, didn't you?
What? Are you crazy?
Don't yell at me.
I really don't know what the problem is.
Why don't you just keep her if that's what you want?
And even though she may be blaming you and projecting this onto you, it's important to remember that this is not about you. It's a symptom of BPD. Here's an example. Let's say you're going out for a quick drink after work. It's your colleague's birthday, so you text her, let her know you'll be a little bit late and why. Maybe she texts back saying, hey, no problem. But then 10 minutes later, you start receiving a barrage of nasty texts accusing you. And you're like, whoa, 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 what happened? And rationally, she may know that you're not doing anything wrong, but right now she has no access to her rational mind. She's engulfed by a fear of abandonment, and now her sense of security is crumbling. Her brain is telling her you'd rather be with your work friends over her, that she's not a priority to you, that you're losing interest, that you're going to leave her. And as her fears intensify, her mind conjures up more and more twisted stories. Jenny's probably there, and I know you think she's hot, and you're probably talking to her right now. Maybe you never even went out for a drink. Maybe you're at her place. She's getting deeper and deeper, sucked into this irrational vortex. And then she's on her phone letting you have it. And no matter what you tell her, you can't seem to pull her out of this spin. So instead of enjoying your beer, you have a text battle with her. And no matter what's actually going on, she can't hear you. Instead, she's been taken over by this frantic fear and the twisted stories that her mind has made up to validate those fears. Then you go home, it's more drama and chaos. You just went out for a beer for Bob's birthday. What happened? And this type of behavior may cause you to decline the next invitation because you just don't want to spend hours reassuring her and trying to bring her back down to reality. It's just too much for you emotionally. But here's the thing. If you respond to these frantic fears of abandonment in ways that stop you from being yourself and doing the things that you enjoy, your sense of self will start to shrink and your world will get so small that soon your whole life will revolve around trying to not trigger her. And as time goes on, the relationship becomes a clingy, needy, obsessive, dependent, chaotic, conflict-oriented mess. So what do you do? If she's untreated, I'd say there's not a whole lot you can do because it truly is a catch-22. If you respond to her primitive cry for help and accept the job of regulating her emotions and doing whatever she needs you to do to make her feel safe, you will eventually realize that she never will feel safe and it's not about you. If you put up boundaries to protect yourself, this reinforces her belief and provides proof that you are going to leave her. And then her fears for her own survival intensify, and so does her behavior.
You're gonna leave me, aren't you?
No, I could never. I love you.
Why?
Number 3, other than the first few weeks or months of the relationship when the untreated borderline is infatuated with you and you with them, they are going to be very emotionally unstable, going from happy, excited, confident, loving, trusting, passionate, to irritable, anxious, paranoid, depressed, raging, shameful, and maybe even suicidal, sometimes switching in a matter of seconds. One of the main problems for the borderline is that all of their emotions are raw, primal, and extreme. They are dialed up way too high.
Forget I offered to help you. Forget the entire idea, because that must have been crazy, because I'm so much crazier than you.
Keep your voice down.
I'm just the crazy with a dead husband.
One of the hardest things for partners to comprehend is how the borderline can sometimes function normally or near normal and then suddenly be full-on symptomatic. From your experience with your nervous system, thankfully you don't know what it's like to be completely taken over by your rapidly shifting and incredibly intense emotions while simultaneously losing access to your rational mind and braking system. So you don't know what it's like to experience an intense emotional state one moment and then to be rocket launched into a completely different state the next moment with little to no warning. The untreated BPD views their feelings as facts, and so they have to learn, among other things, not to blindly believe what their emotions are telling them. They must learn to recognize when their own brain is twisting their perceptions, interpretations, sensations, memories, and learn to not act based on their shifting emotional states. Even with treatment, they have to learn to work against their own nervous system. So imagine feeling the most intense fear you've ever felt in your entire life, and instead of doing what your nervous system is built to do, identify the threat and protect yourself from it, instead you have to learn to use strategies to quash your fear response. So again, it's important to recognize that when she suddenly shifts from a positive to a negative emotional state, it's not actually about how you're eating, driving, talking, that thing you said a couple years ago. It's not personal, it's BPD. So creating a more realistic picture in your mind of what living with someone with BPD is like can help you accept the reality of the situation and to stop deluding yourself that, things are magically going to change. That said, with treatment, the person with BPD can make significant improvements or even go into a state of remission. So there is hope with treatment. Number 4, a person with borderline personality disorder needs a lot of validation and reassurance. This is because they don't have a constant and stable sense of self.
Am I just doomed to be the person that I am? I need you to tell me that I'm a good person. I know that I can be selfish and narcissistic and self-destructive, but underneath all that, deep down, I'm a good person, and I need you to tell me that I'm good.
So even though they are the same person from one day to the next, their sense of self and the idea in their mind of who they are does not remain constant and fixed. They are very fragmented and compartmentalized. So they relate to others from pieces of the self that are not consolidated into the whole. So if you think of a puzzle with 1,000 pieces and 500 pieces are not integrated into the puzzle, there are little piles of pieces all over the place, maybe because those pieces were rejected, invalidated, discarded. And so the person with BPD operates from this blurry, fragmented self, and their ability to maintain a stable image and sense of self and of others is compromised. So when you're not there by their side, they do not have a constant image of you in their mind, and they need a lot of reassurance that you're still there and you still love them. And they don't always go about getting this reassurance in positive ways, especially when there is conflict or they're under stress. Number 5, the label borderline personality disorder comes from doctors who identified this disorder as being on the border between neurosis and psychosis. The word neurosis or neurotic is used to describe mental, emotional, or physical reactions that are drastic, dramatic, and irrational, and not in proportion to what's actually happening in reality. Psychosis, on the other hand, is a condition that affects the way the brain processes information, causing the person to lose touch with reality and see, hear, or believe things that are not real. The person with BPD can vacillate between episodes of neurosis and psychosis, as well as periods of normalcy. So the episodes of dissociation, paranoia, neurosis, the extremes of idealization and devaluation and the shaky sense of self can then seem like there's more than one personality, Jekyll and Hyde. But the borderline does not have multiple personalities. Borderline personality disorder is a scary illness to live with. They hate it too. It's exhausting and they suffer.
Every time I'm with him, I see myself doing these horrible things. And I hate myself for it, but I can't stop.
And one of the reasons that BPD is seen as the golden child of the cluster B disorders is because they often have awareness that they're hurting others and they genuinely feel terribly shameful about not being able to stop their emotions from dragging them around like a rag doll, not being able to control their impulses or manage their symptoms, which can include reckless or even abusive behavior. If you are recovering from a relationship with someone with BPD or another cluster B personality disorder, please check out my Toxic Relationship Recovery online course included in the description section below. And to learn more about the different types of BPD, click on the link above. Lastly, if you haven't subscribed, please click on that subscribe button.